The NPA issue has to be seen in the context of the ability of the banking sector to provide credit. The problem that has arisen in India is that credit offtake has fallen to a 55-year low. We have never seen this kind of a low rise in credit offtake in the country for the last half century. Why has this happened? It is because the traditional source of resources of Indian industry was the public sector banks. 88% of the entire NPA problem resides in the PSU banks. The foreign banks and the private banks make up the balance 12%, and they are keeping the engine rolling. The PSU banks have got into this issue largely because there was some amount of directed lending in the past, which has resulted in a significant number of cases going bad. Permissions, right of way clearances, government support, all of that was either denied or delayed. And as a result of that, some situations have become so difficult that it is virtually impossible to resolve. Because of the higher capital adequacy norms that are now being prescribed, the banks simply don't have the quantum of capital required to one, bear the write-offs and the haircuts which are necessary to bring the debt down to a sustainable level of debt and still remain capital appropriate based on Basel III norms. The gap in capital is reckoned to be of the order of magnitude of more than 1.5 lakh crores. The NPA situation has risen to about 8 lakh crores. Additionally, about 1 lakh crore has already been transferred in terms of AUMs to the various asset reconstruction companies. What has happened as a result of this? And the other situation being that examples are now being set of people who have been retired but are being brought back and are being punished for acts which might have been done during their tenure. As a result of this, there is a complete lack of decision making in the credit flow activity. This is a huge problem. After the financial crisis, India survived and actually prospered because at that time the banks were willing to lend. And we also had very rich real estate which could be sold to make sure that the NPAs can actually be revived. Embedded in this situation are the solutions that we may propose. Fortunately for India, we have in place, with effect from 1st April, a bankruptcy code which is one of the most modern and time-bound codes in the world. In 6 months' time, a resolution mechanism has been put in place which will find a solution which will solve a large number of the NPAs. The fortunate part is that all these NPAs are concentrated in about 100 cases which have already been identified. The good news was that because of the push of the regulators, the NPA problem became visible. People started reporting the non-performing assets. That was the beginning of the finding of solution. The bankruptcy code, through the intervention of the professionals and through the infrastructure that has been created, has the potential of solving. But it is not just the bankruptcy code which will require to be put in place and activated. The surrogacy law, which will have to be amended, which has been amended, will have to start biting. The entire mechanism of bilateral discussions between consortium of bankers through a joint lending forum and the borrower will have to become far more rapid, time bound, and will have to deliver results. The whole idea of strategic debt restructuring or the S4A mechanism that Reserve Bank has put into place will all have to be activated to resolve the problem. But that is not going to be enough. We need two very major structural changes in the banking system. It is critically important that we create much lesser merged public sector banks. I can't see the need for more than 5 banks operating in the entire country. We already have one big merger in place with State Bank of India, which can take the position of the West oriented bank. We could anchor 3 or 4 other bank mergers through Canara, Punjab National, and UCO so that we have one bank. And this is just a suggestion of what restructuring can be done. A one time opportunity at the time of merger, and in the light of the fact that we are going to adapt Ind AS from 2019, there is a one time opportunity to fair value the real estate of all these banks and to fair value to reasonable, sustainable debt the loan assets and set both these assets up on the merged banks' balance sheets at fair value. What this will do is it will enhance the capacity of the banking system to make sure that the haircuts can happen without there being a capital adequacy problem. But there is a solution to the capital adequacy problem also. It is quite feasible to, keeping in view the minimum limit of 51% mandatory government ownership in order for the banks to retain their PSU character, whatever surplus is there beyond the 51% could perhaps be encouraged as fresh investment from the bottom of the pyramid by peopleizing the shareholding in Indian banks, either by a support, which could be a substitution of some of the programs which are already in place, or by an encouragement to put this money out from the past accumulations that people may have in their Jan Dhan bank accounts. What this will do is it will give a huge thrust and a fillip to the resolution process, which must anchor itself on creating sustainable debt in every enterprise, making sure that the monitoring is in great shape, and making sure that where promoters who did not deserve to be in the saddle have to go. That is where the SDR mechanism comes into play, and the bankruptcy code can get activated, the Sarefasi can be activated to make sure that these two major components of resolution come in place. Change in management, creation of sustainable debt, reorganization of the bank's balance sheets to be able to afford the haircut, and once all of this is done, to start lending again so that the credit flow to Indian industry can continue unabated.